Hello there, welcome to another episode of Plus Talk, where we get right into it. No holds barred. We are about keeping it real, no shame, no stigma, living life to the fullest. We are turning positive into a plus. So let's get down right into it. Today is all about HIV and disclosing to family and friends. Boy, this can be a tough one. Joining me in studio, Crystal Shea, Tye and Bailey Pritchard. Thank you all for being here. Let's just get right into it. When did you tell your family and how?
It was maybe not even a year after my diagnosis. It was meant to be in person, but ended up being over the phone during Christmas.
That's always a nice time to break news like this.
Yeah, it was a rough one.
So was it planned on your part, or was it an organic thing?
To a certain extent. I drove home to tell them in person, but my sister and I had gotten into this fight, and I ended up being on the phone with my mother, and she was in town, which is 30 minutes away from our house. And it just came out. So it was 30 minutes away from each other, so close to being in person. But
in a way, is that kind of sort of coming out about it easier than the premeditated planning and thinking about it, do you think?
yeah, I suppose it was.
Yeah.
That would, I mean, the holidays itself, they're difficult as they are, but yeah, it was kind of like a vomit situation.
Vomit at Christmas. Crystal, you've got quite an interesting story about how you sort of came, because you're a mother of 6.
I'm a mom of 6.
You're a mum of 6, but your mum found out, I think, am I right in thinking she found out in a unique way?
Very unique.
Yeah, tell us about that.
Yeah, I believe that she found out via social media.
Uh-huh.
Because I did not share that with her or my dad. And so I got a call from her saying, I'm getting all these calls. Why are these people calling me, telling me that you're HIV positive? And I laughed. I was like, that was a year ago. They're just not calling you? And
So your mother hadn't looked at your social media for 12 months?
No. My mother's not social media literate.
Right, okay. And what was that reaction like then?
It was awful. It was awful. It was very degrading. It was... should have been surprising, but not. And so the response was, you're an embarrassment to me, you're an embarrassment to the family, I'm so disappointed. Yeah.
Did you feel that potentially you were an embarrassment to her and an embarrassment to the family, and that's why you didn't tell her?
No.
Okay, I'm going to come back to that in a minute because I want to get Bailey's story, and then we'll open this conversation up about the role stigma plays in disclosing, because I think we can all probably agree it does. What's your story?
I told my parents actually right when I found out.
Yeah, me too.
I have a pretty good relationship with them, so they were about the closest people in my life at the time. They were really the only people I had to go to, so it's kind of where I went. It was later that I disclosed it to everybody else, but my parents knew before pretty much anybody, so I'm pretty blessed to have that relationship with them, to be honest.
Yeah, you know, I agree in that sense. Mine was the same. They knew within days. What's the process like? Walk me through the process of having to disclose your status to somebody you're close to and that means something to you, and the pros and cons of it. Who wants to go first?
My immediate family, which was my children, the guy that I was seeing at the time, those people were immediate. I wouldn't have been able to sleep without telling them in that moment, because I just would have wanted them to know. You need to know right now. You need to know right now. Everyone else, being that I kind of grew up a loner, as out besides my husbands.
What? Husbands. There you go.
And my children, everyone else was kind of like, if you know, you know. If you don't, you don't.
Right.
You know, and so I was more afraid of thinking that I was going to die. Once I found out I wasn't going to die, then I had to come to grips with who I was. And prior to that, wondering what everyone else would think was kind of secondary for me.
Yeah, but you know, Tye, you're a young guy dating and wanting to be close and intimate with people. There's still a lot of ignorance and misinformation out there about what it means to be HIV positive. So disclosing, you know, to your family is one thing, but how do you find that moment to have that conversation with someone that you want to be intimate with? Do you?
See, I find it very opposite, actually. I found it more difficult to share it with my family than with potential sexual partners or partners. I'm super transparent with that. That's one of the first things that I put out there. I always have been. On any dating app, on whatever it is, I speak out about it. My family was difficult because when I came out at 18 years old, I contracted HIV, I think, 5-6 years later. But when I came out at 18 years old, they condemned it, and they told me that I was going to contract HIV.
You're going to get AIDS and die, because that's
yeah.
what gay people, that's what happens to us gays.
Right, apparently. Not nowadays.
Mm-hmm.
So that was probably the hardest part, is telling them, which is why I wanted to do it in person. And it didn't end up being that way. But I think that we've come a long way after the 10 years that I've, 10 years ago already, 2019, 2009. It's full circle. Since then, my mother I've done AIDS life cycle 5 times, and she has
Show off.
She's flown out each time to be at the finish line. And I think just being there and witnessing, there's 3,000 riders, and then plus all of their family members.
You have a documentary about you. Is that doing the life cycle, or is that?
I was going to do documentary on life cycle. That fell through, but I ended up doing life cycle for 5 continuous years. I did do this segment called Status a few years ago, and that was kind of my coming out publicly.
Okay.
Which I'm proud of, but I find it completely different. It was hardest to tell the people that were closest to me.
Is that because you felt like you'd let them down?
No, I not let them down. Earlier on in it, it's because I thought they were right. But I also, circling back to what you said, thought I didn't know if it was a death sentence or not, when I first contracted it. And it was hard to come to terms with that they were right. And it's like coming to your parents after you did something really, really bad and having to own up to it. But that's obviously not the case, and I ended up educating them along my journey.
Yeah, and I say this often: knowledge is power. So important. Bailey, you identify as a heterosexual man. You disclosed on Facebook. So how did that come about? And why did you choose Facebook? And what was the reaction? I also disclosed on Facebook. So we've got a lot in common, except I'm not straight. So what was the reaction like on Facebook?
It was overwhelming.
Positively,
it was
or?
Yeah. I literally was just sitting there eating breakfast, and I was like, well, this is the time, because the time's fast approaching when I'm not going to be able to do it on my own terms.
Right,
so I want to just do it on my own terms without having to have anybody else be like, you can do it, you can do it. So I just did it.
Crystal, so you're sort of out and proud about your HIV status, I guess, now with your family. But are there moments where you still have hesitation to have to disclose to somebody?
Yeah.
What goes through you when that sort of anxiety, I guess?
Ooh,
Describe it to me.
That's a good word, because we look great and feel great now, but initially, I feel like I'm a unicorn. Anything that has anything to do with sensuality, sexuality, that is me. That's 80%.
Touch me, Crystal. You see? There we go. Comforting already.
So that is who I am. And so that is the thing that took me into 9 months of depression. Just trying to figure out, how will I date again?
How will I touch and be sensual?
How will I touch?
Who's going to love me?
I'm
Who's going to love me?
I'm only half of who I've always been. And that's a whole other story in itself. But I've always been sensuality. And so now I'm less sensuality, or am I? And so I created a campaign called I Wear Red Because I'm Positive.
Yeah, now I want to talk about this bracelet, because you use this bracelet when you go out on dates.
Yes.
You don't really say anything about it, or do you? We're out on a date and you've got that. Is it a talking point, or?
It is definitely a topic.
This is, by the way, a really clever way to just sort of bring up the conversation of status.
I brought one for everybody.
Oh, goody. Well, how does it work?
Perfect.
But it does. It brings up, first of all, my nails are always done, and so you're going to touch my hand and you're going to see the bracelet, and you're going to read it, and it says, I wear red because I'm positive. You're positively what? I'm HIV positive.
Right.
And so then we get a chance to have the conversation. So my anxiety about it, I kind of minimize it out the gate with the wristband. So we're going to have the conversation. I'm going to be very open and honest and transparent with you because I do want to knock boots with you at some point really soon. So can we have this conversation quickly?
I love it. No, I think it's a very clever tool
I like it.
to bring in the conversation versus sort of sitting there and fumbling and awkwardly going, oh, how am I going to say this? I guess I'll ask you this, Tye, with the holidays around the corner and Christmas about to come our way. Knowing what you know and what you've gone through, what advice would you have for the younger version of you or the person who's watching this who relates to you, that is terrified to have that conversation with your family? What advice do you give them to disclosing and talking about this? And how important do you think it is to have this conversation with your family? Because I know people go, I just can't tell the parents, I can't tell the family. I personally, my personal view on that is, look, family's family and you figure it out, but what advice do you have?
I feel like it's the monster in the closet or the monster under the bed that's not really there. I mean, it is there, but it's a lot scarier in your mind than it is. I mean, in some cases, I guess some cases are really just crap, but
Yeah, true.
some are better than others, but it's not. It helps you come to terms with where you are as a person, and it'll essentially help you. So if anything, do it for selfish reasons.
Yes, it grows you like a mug.
And beyond that, like, I mean, circling in stigma here, like, in order to like help get that down, we need to talk about it, like you were saying, as much as possible, and just be out there, be present, be visible.
Yeah, the more we talk about it, the more we share these sort of personal stories. What about you? What do you think, other than disclosing on Facebook in your stand-up comedy routine, as a heterosexual dude? I mean, you must come under fire. People go, oh, you sure he's not gay? You must, like, there's still all of those dumb stereotypical ideas out there.
I mean, I've
What's
had
your
people
advice
ask me if they're going to kiss me if they're going to get it. So, I mean, I'm like, it's not herpes, like,
How
so
are we
like,
still having that question
I
asked
don't know.
in 2019,
I mean, it's just,
2020?
That's just the way it
they're
is.
asking that about HIV, but they're not asking that about herpes.
No,
Right.
they don't ask
If I
about
kiss
that.
you, I can get herpes.
Yeah,
but
if
what
I
is-
touch your arm, I can get herpes. Like,
Crystal.
I'm just saying. I'm not, obviously
don't
not. But
throw
I'm just
here.
saying, like, you can contract it even just by
I got
touching
herpes
it.
now. No, I do
know,
want to
but-
say, no, to that point though, if somebody finds out someone's HPV, people are kind of like comforting, oh my gosh, are you okay? But if you say you're HIV, they're like, how'd you get it?
Yeah.
I've got diabetes, are you okay? I've got HIV, what?
Yes.
And the reality is, actually, HIV, many would say, is a more manageable chronic illness than diabetes is in this day and age. Guys, thank you all for joining me around this table. Short and sweet conversation. It's never, ever going to be easy disclosing your status, but it is a weight off your shoulder. I think we can all agree that when you start to live your truth, at the risk of sounding a little Oprah or Jada Pinkett Smith right now, no, I'm the wrong skin colour.
But it's true.
It is true. Yeah. So, Crystal Shea, thank you very much. Tye Olson, Bailey Pritchard, thank you very much. If you want more information on anything we've discussed in today's episode of Plus Talk, just head on over to pluslifemedia.com. Be sure to follow us as well. We are at Plus Life Media across all social media platforms, and we will have more of this conversation up on the Plus Life website in a day or so. So stick around, stay tuned, because there'll be some, I have a feeling, Crystal here is going to overshare with us. Until next time, see ya.